Hi everyone and welcome to Wine Blast Live. We have lamb, we have wine, and we're not afraid to put the two things together.
Sounds easy, doesn't it? Yeah. Choosing a wine to go with your roast lamb, but it's not as easy as you might think. We're going to explain why, and we've also got the odd surprise up our sleeve too.
We do. Well, we always do. We always like to, but this one particularly. So we're going to be challenging preconceptions, I think it's fair to say, and giving you some delicious ideas all in just a few minutes, because this is the short form version of the podcast and the second instalment in our food and wine mini-series in association with Wine Club by Majestic.
Yep, so this is the new subscription service by Majestic to help you discover delicious wines without the fuss or the risk. You get a new case every season and money off vouchers to spend online or in-store when you sign up. Just search for Wine Club by Majestic or check out the link in the show notes.
Absolutely. So in our last instalment of this mini-series, we found the perfect wine matches for curry, didn't we? And that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It was fighting heat with sweet.
There we go.
Yeah, but also throwing in the odd curveball in the form of pink wine. Love rosé. Love a bit of rosé, particularly with food. You know, I think it's seriously underrated as a food wine.
Totally agree. We're just talking about curveballs in there. Listener Paul from Wimbledon got in touch after that episode to say he'd had a half bottle of Vinsanto left over after a weekend, as you do. I mean, we all, don't we all?
Yeah.
So he then tried it. No, we don't. Not always. Sometimes he then tried it with his curry the next day, and you know what he said was he was blown away. So you know, I want to hear what you make of that, because he did say that everyone he told afterwards thought he was genuinely crazy.
He's unconventional, Paul, I have to say. I can see the logic to some extent. You know, Vinsanto is sweet, which would temper the spice. Probably a bit sweeter than we'd normally suggest.
Quite a lot sweeter.
And it's an oxidative style, which may not be ideal with curry, because I think curry tends to work best with something refreshing. But who knows? One to try, and never, ever, ever be afraid to experiment. That's what we would say.
Yeah.
And you know, we'd love to hear about your favourite food and wine matches. You know, whether they're magical or whether they're just a bit weird. You know, we just like to know.
Yeah,
keep sending them in.
Please do. Please let us know. Now this is different though. We're on to roast lamb, aren't we?
We are.
Now roast lamb, I think, is pretty popular. It's fair to say. Maybe quite a traditional dish. But it's a really classic dish when it comes to wine matching, isn't it?
Yeah, which is a bit surprising to my mind, because lamb, funnily enough, isn't the easiest meat to match with wine, which we are going to come on to. But we need to say first that we're not doing classic roast lamb here today, not roast lamb with all the trimmings. And we wanted to give it a bit of a twist, didn't we? So we wanted to make it more summery, give it a lighter touch, but also keep it a bit simpler, both in terms of cooking and pairing with wine.
I mean, you even got me involved in the process. That's how much of a twist we're talking here. You know, I was manning the barbecue hobs.
It was a bit of a risk. Promoting you from washer up, but you're pretty good on the barbecue.
Oh, thank you.
Can I say?
All right. I'll take that.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is a dish we do a lot. It's butterflied leg of lamb with salsa verde. Now you roast the lamb in the oven and then you stick it on the barbecue to finish it off, which is where you come in. And we served it with roasted baby new potatoes, tender stem broccoli, and more salsa verde. Now my version of salsa verde is oregano, parsley, mint, olive oil, capers, Dijon mustard, some garlic, some chilli, and some anchovies, green chilli anchovies, and then you just blitz it all up together. And it's lovely.
Never knowingly under salsa'd, are you?
Oof, I love salsa verde.
That's a salsa verde and then some. But anyway, we do sometimes serve this with a tomato salad as well, don't we? If you want to go even more summery.
Yeah, you can do tomato mozzarella, you know, that sort of thing if you want.
But the barbecue touch just adds a lovely sort of smokiness and a slight sort of caramelization to the lamb that's absolutely gorgeous. And it just cries out for a lovely glass of wine to go with it, doesn't it, as well?
Really does.
So come on, talk to us. Talk to us about wine.
As I taste that delicious, that lamb is good. The question is which wine. Now, the mistake most people make is to think of lamb as quite a full-on red meat, but it's not. You know, when you actually taste it, it's quite delicate. It's almost, I was tasting that there, it's almost between a white and a red meat, and it's got a slightly livery texture and flavour. So going for a really full-bodied, high-octane, tannic red, it just doesn't work because it's going to overpower the lamb. Instead, I think you need something more restrained, more elegant, more refreshing, which is probably what you've got there.
I was just going to say, this is
not?
exactly one I've prepared earlier. So this is the Majestic Rioja Reserva 2018. I'm just going to pass that over to you so you can have some. It's a beautiful match with this lamb. Now, Rioja and lamb is a classic pairing, so you might be saying, oh, you know, this is just, you know, it's nothing new here. But beware, because Rioja comes in many styles these days. And we tried, I think it's fair to say, quite a few Riojas with this dish. And they were lovely wines, many of them in their own right, but they just didn't work because they were too rich, too powerful, as you were saying.
Yeah.
You need a traditional style of Rioja that has freshness and elegance, as well as those classic sort of creamy red curranty flavours. And this one is a brilliant example of that.
Yeah, and this is a reserva, which means that it's been aged in bottle and barrel before release. So, you know, I think this was 24 months in American barrels, American oak barrels.
Yeah.
And that age gives it some roundness and some kind of tobacco-y flavours and dried fruit complexity that, you know, it's another reason that it works so well with the lamb.
Yeah, so that was $13.99 at Majestic. It's the classic pairing, classic option, if you will, but with that caveat. Delicious as well, I think it's fair to say.
Oh, it's a gorgeous wine, that really.
But what about something
is.
a little bit different? Now, the Pinot Noir grape variety can work really well with lamb as a sort of lighter style, as we've said. But there's another grape that's not a million miles away from Pinot, but can add a really sort of fruity richness to the match, and that's Grenache or Garnacha.
Yeah, now that's the main grape of the southern Rhone, so we're thinking sort of Châteauneuf du Pape, but it's also really widespread in Spain, and you can get some great value Garnachas, often made from old vines in far-flung, you know, forgotten terroir. And the one we have here is the Borsau Tocada Garnacha 2020. It's from Campo de Boja in Spain. It's really juicy and jammy and heartwarming. And, you know, it somehow manages to be rich and yet elegant. You know, it's got that balance. You know, great wines have balance. And it works with the lamb because it sort of gives it a fruity richness. And oh, it's lovely, isn't it?
It's really good.
It's fun.
Really
fun.
good. It's fun. If you like your red currant jelly with lamb, for example, like I do, this is the wine equivalent of that red currant jelly. It's in the current discovery case from the Wine Club by Majestic, which is £99 for 12 bottles. And this is the kind of red, I think also, you could just chill a bit, maybe if it's a summery warm day, before you serve it, because I think it will bring itself out even more.
Yeah, I mean, good shout. And a really good value option that. It looks great, it tastes great. But now, for our final option. And this is where we put the cat among the pigeons, because this one is a white wine. And we want to put it out there that quite often, white wine, you're looking pained. It is true, you're worried what we're going to get from this, aren't you? White wine is sometimes, quite often, actually, a better match for lamb than red.
You heard it here first.
Dare I say it?
There'll be people crying heresy at you right now, but it's true. I remember recommending a white for lamb on Saturday Kitchen on BBC One, and Michel Roux was the chef. And I was worried. I thought he was going to be classic and he was going to say, I don't like this match at all. He absolutely loved it. But Michel Roux is a chef who knows his wine as well as his food, and he really, really got that. And I was that was, you know, just great to hear.
Yeah.
You know, but it does work. Try it out for yourself. Sometimes you have to try it to believe it. But what you do need is a rich, sort of full-bodied style of white, don't you? One that's not too obvious or shouty or oaky. It's more sort of, you need savoury appeal, density, intensity, just nothing too exuberant in character. And it really then picks up on the delicacy.
So it's that funny mix, isn't it, of sort of not too exuberant, but equally plenty of sort of depth of flavour. So this one we have is the Domaine Maire Côtes du Jura Chardonnay 2018 from Eastern France. Now it's funny because when we first tried this, you know, it definitely isn't your classic modern inoffensive dry white with some nice fruit. It's definitely a bit rustic. You know, it's got some age there. It's almost slightly disconcertingly rustic, but it's got lovely savoury density. It's got texture, and it just went with the lamb. You know, this sometimes happens. You just try something and think, that is good.
It's seamless is what it is, and it just stays under the lamb and it works so well. Try it for yourself. I mean, it's a great example, I think, of a wine that really comes into its own with food.
It was better with the food.
And sometimes wine does that, and that's why wine and food pairing is so interesting, because a wine can suddenly come out of itself, given half a chance with the right food. So that one is $12.99 at Majestic, and you know, I think we'd say Jura is a wine region well worth exploring for its whites and reds.
Yeah.
One we'd highly recommend, especially for sort of wines to put food with.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we have it. Lamb, you know, is delicious, but it can be a bit tricky when it comes to wine. It's all about elegance, and don't be afraid to go white.
So absolutely.
Let us know your thoughts on this match and food and wine matching in general. Get in touch.
Absolutely. And all the wine details and the recipe will be on the show notes and our website. Thanks to Majestic, and of course to you for tuning in. Until next time, bon appetit. Cheers.